WWE Hell in a Cell just went off of the air. Uh, the next pay-per-view coming from WWE, the Raw brand, and um, it was a pretty okay pay-per-view. I wouldn't say it was anything really truly spectacular, but I've definitely seen worse. However, there were a lot of botches, a lot of kind of unnecessary things. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do a kind of a go through match by match on the night. This does have spoilers, so if you don't want to see spoilers, you don't see spoilers in the description, in the title even, don't watch this. If you do not want the spoiler alert. Uh, Good. Opening up the night, it was Roman Reigns versus Rusev for the United States Championship inside of Hell in a Cell. I really didn't expect much out of this match. I thought it was just going to be, just kind of a jobber-worthy match. Um, I thought it was very good. It was one of my favorites of this rivalry. The use of the actual structure itself wasn't really too crazy. I mean, the steel steps, a table, you know, um, and a kendo stick were the pretty big majority weapons used in this matchup. The winner of this match was Roman Reigns. He retained his championship via a spear. Rusev was standing on top of the steel steps, and Roman runs from the corner and spears him. I did see a really cool accolade where it was Roman was down on the steps, and Rusev was like standing on the steps using a chain over the face. It was a pretty nasty match. But following that one was Bayley versus Dana Brooks. This one was a good match. To an extent, I'm not sold on Dana Brooke as a wrestler. I think she's still a very super limited skill set, needs to be carried quite a bit. And Bayley being as good as she is, I don't know if she's good enough to kind of carry Dana Brooke. Again, Dana Brooke kind of reminds me of like the New Day version of Beth Phoenix, except nowhere near as dangerous and 10 times more annoying. But the winner of this match ended up being Bayley. She won via the Bayley to Belly. So we'll probably see this rivalry go on for quite a bit longer. Hopefully, the matches get better as these girls work together. But following that was the realest guys in the room, Enzo and Cass, taking on the club, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. This one was a pretty good match. It was very fast-paced, action-packed. The entire way through the match, there really wasn't one boring minute of it. However, the winners were Gallows and Anderson via the Magic Killer. Enzo got in, was kind of just tearing house on Luke Gallows, and then kind of thought he had him. Gallows caught him with the kick and ended it via Magic Killer. It was a very good match. I would give it roughly about an 8 out of 10. It was pretty solid overall. I look forward to seeing more from these two because I really didn't expect this to be a solid rivalry. I expected it to kind of be like a 1-2 match thing and done. I do see this thing going much further. So following that match was Kevin Owens versus Seth Rollins in the Hell in a Cell for the WWE Universal Championship. Another incredible matchup and another incredible match of this series. Rollins and Kevin Owens, every time they're in the ring together, it's always magic. They work so very well together. Of course, you thought Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens are inside, Hell in a Cell. No Jericho. Jericho's not even out of the ring yet. Well, of course, a little spot happens in the match where Kevin Owens pulls out a fire extinguisher, and it makes it look like he's never used a fire extinguisher in his life due to his inexperience inside Hell in a Cell. Like, that's the only time he needs to use a fire extinguisher. And gets it in the ref's eyes. The ref has to be carried out, and as the doors open, Jericho runs down and locks himself in the cell. Rollins fought back very valiantly. It was a pretty solid showing from him, with the two of them in the ring. However, Kevin Owens did retain the WWE Universal Championship by powerbombing Seth Rollins through 2 chairs. As good as a match that it was, I felt like You know, kind of having Jericho in there for the last like 10, 15 minutes of the match kind of ruined it. Um, if WWE was gonna do an unclean finish, like yeah, I know what you're thinking. WWE an unclean finish, never. If they were gonna have an unclean finish to this matchup with Jericho interfering, I liked it would have been like the very, very end, and it didn't kind of draw out the match. Although it did look like Seth was going to be able to take it, so I guess in a way that was exciting. Following that match was TJ Perkins putting the WWE Cruiserweight Championship on the line versus the Brian Kendrick. Of course, you saw leading up to this the last couple weeks, Kendrick, um, telling TJ, "Hey, I need this, man. I need this. My family needs this. My kids need this. This is all I got. This is my last chance." And he was asking TJ to kind of lay down for him. Well, that didn't happen. TJ really came to fight. This was a great match. This rivalry, story-wise and physicality-wise, is fantastic. You know, those great counters in this match, just like how the old cruiserweight division used to be. Um, the pace to it was very insane. Now, the ending, of course, pretty screwy. Um, Brian Kendrick went to go for a sliced bread number 2. TJ kind of pushed it off, and it looked like Kendrick landed pretty rough on his foot. So, or on his knee, his foot, causing injury to his knee. So, while the referee's looking over at Kendrick, he's kind of gingerly, he's holding on to it. He's on the ground saying, "Yeah, I can continue, blah blah blah." And Perkins came in, showing concern, and Kendrick hits him with a headbutt, and then throws him into the captain's hook, and Brian Kendrick captured the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. I give it about an 8 out of 10. If it was a very clean ending and would have been like a solid win for Kendrick or a solid win for Perkins, it would have been a 9 out of 10. But of course, more controversy, I guess, just leads to more storylines branching off. Who knows? Who really cares, I guess. So, the following match was The New Day versus Cesaro and Sheamus. This was another one of those matches I wasn't going to be too excited about, but it was actually another really good match. For bits and pieces, we saw Cesaro, we saw Sheamus work together well as a team and took the New Day, to the edge. Just the other way around too. We saw Xavier Woods really showcase a lot of great skill with Big E. Big E very close to taking out Sheamus on numerous occasions. It was very good. Right as Cesaro had Xavier Woods in the sharpshooter, you know, Sheamus was out of the ring, like fighting off the rest of the New Day so they couldn't interfere into the match. Well, the referee caught Kofi hitting Sheamus and whatnot, and it was right. And as soon as he goes to ring the bells, right at the time Xavier Woods taps. So Cesaro and Sheamus do win the match, but they win it via DQ. So, of course, another messed up ending, that there's no clear decision. So once again, these two will have more of a storyline. I do look to see Cesaro and Sheamus take the tag championship later on down the line. Maybe one of the New Day's members will go heel. That's kind of what I've been hoping lately, because it just seems like the storyline's getting a little bit stale as far as the New Day's characters go. But, we'll have to see what happens. And the finale, Sasha Banks versus Charlotte for the WWE Women's Championship. The beginning of the match was crazy. Charlotte attacks Sasha before the match even begins. And, Sasha has a lower back injury. They get the medical staff out. She's loaded up onto the cart for the ambulance. Like, looks like she's going to go to the ambulance. Well, as soon as they get ready to announce that Charlotte won the match, Sasha gets up, which is kind of funny because they were going to say Charlotte's the new champion. However, the match never officially begun, so it would end in a no contest if that was really the case. So WWE logic, like no one would even notice that. Sasha, she got driven through a table. Like, she got powerbombed through a table, the announce table, at the very beginning of the match, before it even began. That's what sparked this whole thing. As the match began, early on it was a little bit slow at first, early on. Like, after, Sasha had this big, huge momentum, emotional momentum run, and then it kind of slowed down a bit. But as the match went further on, it got picked up. Um, Charlotte almost got put through a table. Oh, she did get put through a table. I don't know, kind of half-assed. She went to suplex Sasha off the top rope. Sasha pushed her down. She landed on the apron and got kicked, and it broke like the first quarter of the table. But as the match went on, the target on Sasha's lower back was really key for Charlotte. And at one point, she's trying to slam Sasha through the table. She threw her on it twice. Of course, no break. So another possible botch. They just rolled with it. But as Sasha rolled off of the table, Charlotte hits natural selection and becomes the 3-time WWE Women's Champion. So overall, the pay-per-view was pretty decent. Like I said, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst I've ever seen. A lot of botches, though. But I mean, in this kind of match where you have a Hell in a Cell, a lot of improv is necessary, and it just didn't really work some of the time. There was a couple matches where it was pretty clean, but I'm pretty sure it was like every single match, except for Gallows and Anderson, Bailey and Dana Brooke, and Roman Reigns and Rusev. Uh, Anything but those three matches were ended in controversy. So that's over 50% of the matches were some shit ending. But anyway, if you like this video, please leave it a like and a favorite. It really helps out the channel. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at The Gamers Archive NA. If you have any comments, leave them down below. Also, you can shoot us an email at the Gamers Archive Podcast at gmail.com. We thank you guys for watching this episode, and we hope you have a great night.